So, welcome everyone. Sorry for the technicalities of usual technicalities of webinars. We had to check with if everything was working fine. And thank you for being here. This is the second OneBAT webinar that we have organized. It's going to be presented by Anton Blashenko, who you probably already know. The title of the webinar is Long-Term Urban BAT Monitoring and Notes on the Effects of Full-Scale War on Urban Life. And he's presented by Dr. Anton Blashenko from the Skovoroda Kharkiv National University. You're going to correct me if I'm wrong with the pronunciation, which is also a partner of the OneBAT consortium. This webinar will be recorded as we did with the previous one that we did with Fiona Matthews, and is going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel and then subsequently on the Twitter, X, and LinkedIn profiles of OneBAT. So all the communication channels of OneBAT also on the website. At the end of the presentation, there is going to be a QR code for a very quick survey on feedback, on the feedback that you can provide about the webinar, and we use it to improve future webinars that we are going to organize. It's not mandatory; it just helps us with the organization of webinars, the content, and the people who can participate. I have said everything that I had to, so I will leave the floor to Anton for the presentation. Please, Anton, go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. It's a big pleasure to share with all of you my presentation and the results of our long-term monitoring of urban bats, how we are doing this, and how we continue doing this during the full-scale war that appeared in Ukraine. Already it's like 4 years of full-scale war. Yeah, but anyway, we continue doing our duties and willings to protect bats. Very short presentation about what is Ukraine. It's actually a very big country, vast country. It's more than 1,000 kilometers from the east to west and up to 1,000 kilometers from north to south. And it's picturesque landscapes, a lot of wildness and rivers, floodplains, mountain areas, some part of past steppe area. Now it's mostly agriculture, but anyway, in Ukraine we had a lot of nature, like 3 biomes, like Ukraine located in these 3 biomes. Also we have mountain areas, and yeah, of course, now because of war, some part of Ukraine, this eastern and southeastern occupied, but we still keeping the map according to our borders of 1991. And also we have a lot of cities, and we have 3 cities bigger than 1 million inhabitants. And yeah, in general, this part of Ukraine is very hardly urbanized. So, and I started studying bats and actually monitoring bats in Kharkiv since 1999. And also after like 15 years, we established a project, Bat Rehabilitation Center. It was part of private zoo, Elban Eco Park. And since 2022, we finally scaled country-wide project. Now it calls Ukrainian Bat Rehabilitation Center. And this is map of Kharkiv, current map of Kharkiv, and it's relatively a new city from the point of view of like Central European cities and Western European cities. And now, I mean, yeah, now it's less, but before the full-scale war, it was 1,500,000 inhabitants. And of course, there were some people who also studied bats in the Kharkiv area before that period that we came as a new generation of zoologists. And it's important to notice that when I started actually working with bats in Kharkiv, we already had hundreds of bats each year that we collected. And here you can see the statistic of number of bats that were found in city. And because we already had so big number, we had to deal with them, and it was some kind of our responsibility for animals. But at the same time, as zoologists, we had also interests what bats are living in our city, in different districts, and of course, this collection and saving of bats was one way of actually getting scientific data. We did at the beginning of all this activity, of course, we didn't have any established organization, and we saving and rescuing bats at home. We use our private refrigerators for keeping bats, and also I reconstructed my balcony door for hibernation place for bats. And in Ukraine, we still have very harsh winter. Even now, even this like more warmer winter, we still have -10. And in this temperature condition, it's not possible to release bats immediately to the nature. What is actually the cycle of bat rehabilitation, how it's going on and happened? Of course, we have a special call center, contact center. It was just a phone a few years ago. Now it's like all messengers and also phone number. And if someone found a bat or group of bats, we have on duty person who just travels through the city and saves these bats from people and saving people from bats. And we got these bats to our rehabilitation center and examine them. If they're okay, we just put them during winter for artificial hibernation. If it's not winter, we release them, of course, immediately. And also we treat these bats during winter, and each spring we have this bat release fest. From what locations? And it's not like roosting sites. In most cases, it's any variations of urban traps. And you can see on these pictures, bats were roosted in this balcony just outside of the building, and they were just throw out to snow. In some cases, bats trapped in these window traps, or people find them in their apartments. In all of these cases, we came and rescuing these bats. And because we started as professional zoologists, we very careful in collection all data that we have. Of course, it's date of finding all details about locations. Also, we examine live bats, and also if we have carcass of bats, we apply the same methodology. And also we rehabilitate some bats. And in some cases, if they are after treatment, we couldn't release them to the nature, and these bats that cannot fly stay in our bat rehabilitation center for all lifelong rehabilitation. We also very carefully collected all dead bats, and also we have it's not actually collection, it's a storage of frozen bat bodies and also tissue samples in ethanol. Oh, and finally, day by day, month by month, we had a huge data set that's covered 25 years, and it's totally more than 40,000 bats. Only in Kharkiv, for that time, we collected up to 30,000 individuals, and from other cities, it was also more than 10,000. So we put together data from these historical records that I already mentioned. And here you can see the map of Ukraine and this name of the cities that we established already branches of our BAT Rehabilitation Center, or in some like other cities we have just our volunteers. And let's go to results. And some part of this results was already published. When the full-scale war started, we were concentrated on analysis of data, and we very quickly prepared first data paper when we summarized all these records for first 10 years of our BAT Rehabilitation official center activity. And you can see the distribution of these records, the statistics of these records, and also we put together these direct records when individuals or group of bats were transported to our BAT Rehab Center, or also we put together these corresponding records. It means that when we got just information, picture, and we can identify species or just identify the individual up to genus of bats. And finally, we have up to 20 species together, but 5 of them are more common, and even 4 of them. This noctule bats, it's numerically super dominant. It's more than 36,000. And we have 3 other species, it's serotine bats, Culis pipistrelle, and particolored bats, Vespertilio morinus, Pipistrellus culi, and Tesicus serotinus. And also we have other species with very few tens of individuals collected together, or just one individual. And because of all of this activity of saving bats and rescuing bats, we have first record of Hypsuga savi in continental Ukraine. Also, we have a record of Tadarida teniotis, very unpredictable record, but this scheme of bat rehabilitation allow us to find this rare individual, potentially transported by some transport, maybe aircraft, to Kharkiv. And yeah, anyway, we found this individual. And also we have now in Ukraine, we have first records of Pipistrellus pygmaeus on hibernation. This is just a visualization about statistic of other cities. And I would like to specify that, for example, in Kharkiv, we have a significant bias in number of species and number of individuals, because actually the main facilities of our BAT Rehab Center are located in Kharkiv. In other cities, we have from 3 species to 9, 8, and also number of individuals varies from few up to a few thousand. It means that not only in Kharkiv we have such amount of bats, but also in other cities like Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Odessa, we also have significant number of bats that had to be rescued each year. This is visualization of distribution of 3 common species, this longitudinal and latitudinal distribution, and also the name of city according to the name of the cities on the map. And you can see, for example, that in central Ukraine, Pipistrellus culi has 50% of total number of bats, and also we have bigger percentage of Vespertilio morinus also in south of the country and on the west of the country, compared to the east. It's just visualization, but yeah, of course, this data has to be analyzed more properly, and we are working on this. And here is very interesting story. It's actually all the data slides of bats collected in Kharkiv from actually mid of 20th century. And you can see that, for example, serotine bats, this blue line was in the city all this time. I mean, it was collected these people who did it in the beginning of 20th century. And we have this like two first records of noctule bats in Kharkiv, and it was a very important record on the end of 80s, first winter record of noctule bat, and now we have thousands of individuals of the species each year, and the number continue growing. Also, there was no any record of Pipistrellus culi. This species moved from east to west, and the first record came from 2000. And after that, for 25 years already, this species is like third or second in different cities, but in Kharkiv, it's third species by the number of records each year. And actually, the two numerous winter groups of noctules that we rescue came from the last 2 years. It was, I mean, yeah, it was the same year, but two different winters. But anyway, it was up to 2,000 each. And the second part of my presentation, it's about distribution of records through seasons, and because of course bats not living in our cities all year round. They appeared and disappeared, and how it's going on I'm presenting here. This is example actually of running of temperature for 1 year. It's case year 2013, and you can see this red columns. It's a number of individuals of bats that were found in each period. Also, you can see this dividing by phenological periods, winter, spring, summer, and also periods of bat life, like hibernation, spring migration, breeding period, autumn, or invasion, or swarming, autumn silence, and hibernation. And it was very interesting for us actually to compare it, the statistic from Kharkiv to other cities, and we finally did it last year. And you can see this proportion of different species, serotine bats, noctula, Culis, pipistrelle, in different cities, Kharkiv, Kiev, and Poltava. And we have like this very, very clear picture that during breeding period, noctule bats just leave the city. For Kharkiv, it was shown, and also we had like similar data for other cities. And the species who became the most abundant in the breeding period, it's from May to June, it was serotine bats. But even for serotine bats, sorry, it's wrong title for this slide. Yeah, this is a statistic of records actually of sex and age of serotine bats in Kharkiv, and you can see that during this breeding season from May to July, anyway, instead we have the species, but we don't have the breeding part of population of the species. And it looks like that only adult males stay in the city center during breeding period, but females of serotine bats, they moved out of the city borders. And in case of noctule bats, not only females, but also males mostly moved out of the city borders for breeding period. Also, we are rearing all bats that we got because we have so big amount of bats, and it's very difficult to care them and to control their conditions without individual marking. And we had more than 150 recaptures, but now it's much bigger. And the general picture looks like that they're dispersed between different cities, and also two forests that surrounded Kharkiv. And one of the main results that we got, that bats that were born in the periphery of the city, and we reared them as a subadult, this year born individuals, they moved to the city center for hibernation. And these results confirm our hypothesis that bats, and not like bats, but exactly noctule bats, Nyctalus noctula, formed a resident population around Ukrainian cities. And as you saw in this previous graph about dynamic of records of different species, it happened for the last 40 years. Preliminary, we did also very raw estimation of population number of noctule bat that could potentially hibernate in Kharkiv. And totally we have near 5,000 individuals of noctule bats that are living in Kharkiv city. How we preliminarily calculated is that each spring we release to nature in Kharkiv after this winter rehabilitation from 2,000 to 3,000 bats, and preliminary, of course, the survival rate and also losses each winter has to be taken into account. And yeah, preliminary the raw number of bats that living in Kharkiv, it's near 5,000. And when we rescue each winter group, it's happened occasionally from like different buildings. It could happen in different districts of Kharkiv. We had from 2 to 5 persons of bats with rings. And it's very easy, actually proportion. And we hypothesize that it's really huge number from 100,000 to 200,000 bats, just noctule bats that currently hibernate in only in Kharkiv. The next part of my presentation is about full-scale war, and all of you familiar with the strategy that happened to Ukraine, to people of Ukraine, and we are from Kharkiv, and Kharkiv is just 30 kilometers from border with Russia. The war started the first morning, and this is our alma mater in university building. This is some districts on the northern periphery of the city, and actually what we did from the first day till current moment. When the full-scale war started, I traveled immediately to our office because we had more than 3,000 bats that hibernated in these refrigerators. And we very quickly constructed self-releasing cage. And when we did it, at the same time, we saw from windows of our office how the first Russian tanks start actually blasted out and burning. We saw the smoke. We heard this machine guns fire, and yeah, it was of course far, like several kilometers from us, but it was visible. But first time we have to actually save our bats, and we also had bats in Eco Park area. I will explain you later about. And till March, April, we tried to save these bats that were in our freezers. This like collection of bats, and we involved like a lot of power to this, and we went to our office, left them, and yeah, it was a very special moment in our life. Like 4 people, including me, live in my flat, and we are like working together, try to save data, try to save bats, live bats, and collected dead bats also. And yeah, also we managed to survive these things, and after July it began like more normal life again. We had public transport, and yeah, continue this work as usual, of course, each time with some bombing, but anyway, yeah, we try to do our best. This is picture from the first day, and yeah, it was a very warm actually evening that allowed us to release them. And yeah, we had this bat collider. It's a special enclosure for training traumatized bats and also for training baby bats that were born in captivity or orphan bats. And it locates actually, yeah, it's still operable in the northern part of the city, but this northern part of the city become the front line from the first day, and it was possible to reach this area for 1 month, and we didn't know actually what happened with our bats, that they hibernate in this cage, just in this wooden house. But yeah, finally we reached them, saved them, and they were completely okay. Yeah, and yeah, it was some difficulties that happened around us, and March and April of 2022, it was the most difficult period. Later, we appeared themselves in the center of scandal about bioweapon climbing. In March 2002, we understand that the Russians proclaim us as the part of team who secretly developed a biological weapon, and they actually hacked a mail of one of our colleagues, and we, for that moment, we had a collaborative project with some German researchers, and we sent them officially a bunch of samples of ectoparasites collected from Kharkiv, and they did the screening for bacteria actually. And yeah, this paper was published soon. I mean, soon from March 2022. And yes, it was very scare and unpredictable moment that our usual scientific activity appeared to be in the center of bioweapon scandal. Some phases of war, of course, not only urban environment damaged by war, also huge, it's millions of hectares that damaged by some artillery shells or some wildlife fire. Yeah. And also our first problem with bats that happened because of the full-scale war. It was autumn 2022 when this partly destroyed an abandoned city appeared a deadly trap for bats that actually even video is working. Yeah, and you can see how it actually happened, and people just leave their flats, leave these windows open, or these windows were blasted out, and hundreds, thousands of bats were trapped, and they were everywhere in flats, in people apartment. And actually we already moved through 3 war autumns in Kharkiv, and in 2023 it was relatively calm as usual, but last autumn 2024 it was also after significant bombing of Kharkiv, and we again got the same abandoned flats with a lot of bats inside. This is example of window trap that is very special for this part of world, because we have these wooden frames and very often bats trapped inside. And we very quickly prepare a paper about this first summer of war in Kharkiv, and we calculate the statistics of records, war records and not war record, war cases of saving bats and not war cases of saving bats. And you can see that the number of bats that trapped because of the war, it's significantly higher than that usual trap. And this is red dots. It's actually this war cases, and it happened in more damaged part of the city. For that moment, city was just shelled by artillery, and only this northern and northeastern part of the city were damaged more significantly. This is also some statistics and some interesting notes about what happened in urban environment, in the war-damaged urban environment with bats. And we saw this like significant shift of phenology. Before that, it's statistic from Kharkiv before the full-scale war. We had during breeding season, as I already mentioned, like absence of nocturnal bats, and they later came back to city in swarming period, and they disappeared before hibernation. This autumn silence period that lasted from mid of September till the end of October. They mostly leave the city for foraging, but after this full-scale war, I will explain it a little bit later, they stay in the city longer. And our explanation is that it happened because of absence of actually light pollution. The light was switched off in all of Ukraine since the full-scale war, and it's very slowly switched on back later. And in Kharkiv, they start using street light only near December of 2022. It means like from February to December, there was no street light, only light from windows. And we saw some very interesting process, very quick, this warm rebounding. We had a lot of night morses. They were everywhere, especially in August. And also this gazons didn't cut down. And we saw like a lot of vegetation that very quickly recovered just during one season. Blackouts, yeah, we had in past. Now it's a little bit better in Ukraine. And yeah, it's actually looked very weird and interesting from the point of view of wildlife biologists, zoologists, that you appeared in the beginning of 19th century. And yeah, it's interesting actually to evaluate what is real impact of light pollution, because we rarely not recognize this scale. And also it's for me, yeah, it was very special experience that I saw how actually is nature very quickly recovered after absence of light pollution. And each half of a year we have like different situation in Kharkiv from the point of view of what type of ammunition was used against the city and what is the level of destruction. We had several relatively calm periods and several like very severe moments, and it's always switching each half of a year. And yeah, from December 2023 they started using rockets, a lot of rockets against Kharkiv. And actually this picture of my flat, in one morning I just wake up of this blasted out wave that actually blasted out my windows inside of my flat. I was in another part of flat and I wasn't damaged, but actually it happened in October 2023. But in October 2024, another person from our team, he was a little bit damaged by the same situation when the windows was just blasted out inside of his flat. And we also had a lot of not direct cases with bats, but indirect cases, but also connected with war. For example, this university building that you already mentioned, and also they lost their windows and their glasses, and they decided they got some money from some foreigner organizations, and they decided that they have to change this window, but they started doing exactly at the beginning of hibernation season, and people from our team had to be together with these workers each day and actually rescuing bats during this renovation of windows activities. And it was like plus 2,500 bats. This is conclusion about what is like generally happened. It's like conclusion for the whole story that we have now in eastern part of Europe, because it connected all territories that were in former Soviet Union. And the idea is that during the Soviet era, last like 50 years, a lot of prefabric concrete buildings were built and erected in different part of Soviet Union. They were like this standard construction, standard concrete plates, and during decay of Soviet Union, the quality of these buildings become worse, and more like openings, crevices, like had in these buildings, and very quickly bats occupied it, actually, these buildings. And now, as I mentioned, we have preliminary 100,000 bats only one city, but for all of Ukraine, it's sedentary population of millions of bats. And it's a new conservation challenge, actually, for bats in eastern part of Europe, because for now we didn't have any government established programs of building insulation and renovation, but we hope that after the peace treaty we will have some reconstruction program in Ukraine, and all of this bat roosting sites appeared under danger, and yeah, we have to prevent it. But also from the point of view of One Health perspective, it's a very interesting story when so big amount of bats actually moved to city and out of the city each year. It's last section of my presentation. It's about our bat education work, that we established the public bat release fest in 2012, and after that year we continue these events, and these events attract a lot of people who came, also journalists and regular citizens, just to see how our bats started the first flying during spring. And we scaled up this activity. If we started in Kharkiv, last 3 years, instead of this full-scale war, we managed to organize this bat release fest in different other cities. When we in cities that we have branches or volunteers, and of course it's like very important event for local people, and especially now because it's like some positive news and some positive activities that is happening now, together with all of these negatives that we had now in Ukraine. And a lot of journalists actually came to film this like stories about how bat rehabilitators release bats to the nature. And finally, in this moment, we reached our goal that we put like 15 years ago, that we wanted that in Ukraine, most of these reportages about bats were positive, because we are fighting with this bad opinion about bats, that they're spreading disease, some other superstitions about these animals. And finally, yeah, I would say that we reach this point, and it's a very good story. And of course, all our team is very exhausting during this winter season, but after this bat release fests, it was like a lot of positive emotions instead of tiredness and exhaustion that we got from people who came to see how these bats start flying. And yeah, this is our team. A picture from after previous bat release fest in this the Felmanica Park area. It's also, we did the picture in our new office space that we moved this already last summer. Now it's old Soviet basement, and it's very safe compared to that office that we had before. And even instead of war and what is going on in Ukraine, we managed BAT summer school, and we gathered students from different cities and universities in Ukraine. And in Western Ukraine, we organized like 2 weeks of training for young generation of zoologists, how to work and study bats. Yeah, of course, my great acknowledgements for all organizations and people who are helping us, especially for the last 3-4 years, because our local sponsors, actually Mr. Feldman, who is owner of this Feldman Eco Park, now they don't have possibility to help us a lot because their actually main business was destroyed during the war. And of course, very great thanks to Ukrainian Defense Forces, who first fight and continue this fighting and allow us to continue our activity under Ukrainian flag. And this is our social media website, Facebook. It's actually very easy to remember, just Bats Ukraine, and you can find our pages, and also you can support us on Patreon or PayPal. Yeah, this is QR code for feedback. I don't know, should you scan it now or later? Should I keep it?
Yeah, I think I think that they can do it now if they want. But first of all, thank you very much, Anton, for your presentation. I think it was very interesting, and I really enjoyed, and I think all of the participants have enjoyed the presentation. And it's not just about the technicalities, but also, which are very important, but also for the message of hope that you bring with the presentation that you made. The feedback survey is very easy to and very quick. You just scan the QR code with your phone, and it's like a 5 minutes survey, and you can provide a feedback for the improvement of the next webinars, and also to keep in contact with all of us who work with the OneBAT project. I think now it's time for the questions. There's the chat, so I think that they are able to write anything they want in the chat. There's a lot of rounds of applause. So for you, Anton.
So stop sharing, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's the chat, and I think that there's messages in the chat. First one is not a question from Jorge, or yeah, I think Jorge has a very important work, a very good exposure. I hope the situation in your country improves very soon. Thank you, and I think I totally agree with him. If you want to comment on this. Can you see the chat, Anton?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have questions for Anton, please write it in the chat. So we have another 10 to 15 minutes to listen to and to read all the questions. So please go ahead.
Thank you for your question. And yeah, do you have an idea of number of bats deaths like linked to the war? In our first publication, we did preliminary evaluation, how we calculated. So we visited that buildings in what we had numerous colonies, wintering colonies of noctula bats, and we calculated the proportion of these buildings that was partly destroyed, totally destroyed, but statistics for 2022 was like preliminarily 7,000 bats died or killed because of destruction of these buildings. I mean, and also later we did like calculation of potentially 1 square kilometer of damaged urban environment. Yeah, and it's preliminarily like few tens of thousands of bats that could live and died because of this shelling and bombing during winter when they actually hibernated in cities. And also we got just a few individuals of bats, I mean, that were found like directly close to just recently destroyed buildings. But because it's very difficult actually to pay attention for bats, and this rescuing team mostly concentrated of people and pets. And yeah, in one case, yeah, they also find some pets and send them to our rehab center. But it was just few individuals, I mean, few direct cases that we saw that, yes, there's that bats from that building that was just recently destroyed.
Anton, can I ask you 1 second to reshare the presentation in the last slides? Maybe they still have the QR code for the feedback form.
Let's try. Does it work?
Yeah, it's not full mode presentation, but it works.
Okay. Is it enough?
Yeah. There is another question. It's in the chat.
Mm-hmm. It's a question about ringing of bats, and yeah, we paid like special attention about in what conditions we have bats, and because the main team of our project very sensitive to bat health status, and of course we are carefully examine all bats before releasing, and to our like surprise, we have like thousands of ring bats, and just few of them actually damage themselves by the rings. We use the rings from Poland producer Aranea, and I would say that the like bats are like okay with these rings, and nocturnal bats, they're very less sensitive to bat rings. Serotine bats like more, but because we're keeping these bats during all winter, we have possibility actually to monitor how they like react on the bat rings. And of course they're like nervous, especially serotine bats, they're nervous like first like few hours after ringing, or few maybe days, or even mostly few hours. And after that they're familiar and continue living with these bat rings without any problem.
I think that there were two questions.
Yes, it's a question about have you taken any prevalence measure with the population in light of the risk of some? Actually, about Lassa viruses and bat viruses, all people in our team vaccinated. I mean, people who are working with bats in our office, because we are operating like thousands and hundreds of bats. But the main message to common citizens that never took a bat by bare hand. Always use some like protection, clothes, some tissue, and and we always say this, that bats could spread viruses, that could be infected, and be very careful, never take a bat by bare hand. So the next question, will the end of war have negative effect in increasing of bat population in the city? And will the increase and decrease in the beneficial for human and bats themselves? Yeah, we will have, as I mentioned, this renovation program in cities after the war ended, I hope soon. Yeah, in this case, we potentially have potential negative impact of bats because they just lost their roosting sites. Could you tell me how many species of bats there are there? I mean that the total number, it's up to, I mean, for all of Ukraine that were collected, it's up to 15, but in Kharkiv we had the biggest number. I mean, it's not a number of bats, of bat species that actually live in this area. It's only that bats that were rescued and found in some flats, buildings, or human construction. It's 11 species. Okay, it's a question from Lebanon. You mentioned that bats were using the holes. Yes, they didn't use the holes, but they very quickly occupied the windows that were blasted out. I mean that if there is a hole in window, this hole allowed bats to trapped inside of the building, and they just penetrate the building and start flying inside. Yeah, but it's very interesting actually to share our experience and to get some feedbacks from others country that unfortunately also damaged by wars.
Okay, I think we have no more questions so far. We wait for another few minutes. If you have any other question, please go ahead. I have left in the chat the link to the survey, to the LinkedIn OneBAT page, and to the website. So if you want to check and know more about the work that we do at OneBAT, you have all the link in the chat. I think that by next week we are going to upload the webinar on our YouTube channel, as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. So we already have the one that we did with Fiona Matthews, Professor Fiona Matthews, and there's going to be this one and OneBAT official video that we have produced very recently. So if you want to check that out as well, it is on our channels. I think that there are no more questions. So I would stop the presentation here. So
yeah, just few last words that thank you for possibility to sharing our data, experience, and results with all of you. And when I hope it happened soon, when the war ended, I invited all of you to visit Ukraine because it's a very beautiful country with a lot of wildness. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Anton, and thank you everyone who joined this webinar. We can keep in contact and